Hello, everybody. It's me, Roscoe, and welcome to the latest episode of the Kings of Anglia Track the Girls Talk podcast, the show where we cover all things Ipswich Town Women. And we've got to apologise straight off the bat. I'm joined by Tom Cann, my co-host for this series, and it's been a long time since we last recorded one of these. End of September was the last pod after the Portsmouth win, which was a historic victory for Joe Sheehan's team. And since then, we've seen a lot of defeats. And we're not recording after just wins. We've got to record after defeats and reflections on different bits and bobs. But Tom, great to see you, my friend. How are you? We've been going to all the games at home when we can. But yeah, we've got to apologise. We haven't recorded a podcast for a while. Most of it's been my fault, I'll have to admit. But you've got to take some of the blame as well. But how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, sorry everyone. It's not easy when you're doing what you do every day of the week, and my job of reporting the news for the people of Ipswich doesn't leave an awful lot of time to do a podcast midweek. So yeah, we've had obviously a lot of games since our last one. Not the best of results in them, but it's been enjoyable still going to the home games, even if it is now absolutely freezing at the JobServe Community Stadium. I think every single match there's been since Portsmouth, I have complained about the cold and not done anything about it. Forgot gloves today. Forgot gloves every game, and yeah, I'm just waiting until I can get a new coat.
Indeed. And yeah, we're recording this off the back of the 2-0 defeat against London City Lionesses. But this podcast will be more of a reflection on the season so far. Going to hear from Joe Sheehan, the Ipswich Town manager. Tom Cann spoke to him after the game. And we've got just bits and bobs we want to discuss because, as we said, it's been a long time. And there's been 7 games since then. Unfortunately, all defeats in the league and the cup. But we're going to do our snap thoughts, Tom, on the Subway Cup defeat. The Track Girls were out of that competition. They were out of it before the game against London City Lionesses. It was a 2-0 defeat. How do you look back on that game? It was very cold. It's always cold at Colchester Stadium. It's probably the coldest ground in the country. But that's the last time we talk about the weather. Let's talk about the game because, a 2-0 defeat against a WSL side.
Yeah. I mean, they were really good. And actually, Ipswich, I thought, did a good job. It was obviously a much changed team as it has been for the other League Cup games. With sort of fringe players getting starts and getting able to get some fitness back into them, because obviously there has been a lot of injuries at the start of the season for Joe to handle. So it's been a really good chance for him to play some of those players that need that fitness level to go back up. And today I thought, it wasn't the most exciting of games. First half, I thought Ipswich struggled to get out of their half, but they did defend really well, bar the goal, which I thought could have done a little bit better with. And then the second one is, it just gets played out wide, and unfortunately, as I'll probably come on to in a bit, another cross into the middle and another goal, which has been a big downfall for Ipswich this season, is stopping crosses and, cutting them out. But as a whole, I don't think anyone was expecting them when the teams got chosen for the group. I don't think anyone expected Ipswich to get out the group, if I'm honest. 2 WSL sides, one of them absolutely flying, obviously beat Villa at the weekend in the WSL in London City, and Leicester doing well up there as well, and then Crystal Palace, who had just come down from the WSL. So it was a really tough group to deal with. And I mean, look at today. They started, players that probably wouldn't normally start for them. And then midway through the second half, they bring on Nikita Paris, who is pretty much a household name for being part of, the England squad for the last couple of seasons and playing regularly for them. 2 Finnish internationals scored both goals today. An Australian international played. It's just impossible. there was Perez who won the World Cup with Spain. It's impossible for them to really compete against that sort of caliber of player. So they did well given the circumstances. It was a changed team. International break now, so Cup's gone. No more worries about Subway League Cup. Focus on not getting relegated.
Yeah, that's going to be the next focus. We are going to hear from Joe on the game. But yeah, myself, there was some late chances, I have to admit, for Town. Natasha Thomas had a chance, Ria Dean as well. But I don't know. It's just one of those. I think the cup competition is given an opportunity for Joe, as you said, to sort of use his whole squad. But yeah, playing against very good opposition. I just remember them bringing Nikita Paris on. I thought, bloody hell. I bet the defence looked up and, oh no, got to take on more players. Obviously, Frag Godfrey came on, a former Town loanee who's been called up to the England Lionesses first team squad, which is an incredible story. But yeah, for them to bring on players like that, it's just, it's always going to be a tough task. But out of the Subway Cup now. But let's hear it from Joe, Tom, on the game. Let's see what the gaffer had to say on another cup defeat.
Yeah, no, good experience for us. We've utilised the League Cup games to try and rotate some players that perhaps haven't been playing as many minutes as they would have liked. And we've done that throughout all of our games so far. Each game's posed a different test. Wasn't quite sure how much they might change, but relatively strong. I think with some really, really good players and some high-profile names, both at the start and off the bench. And we knew it was being for a really tough day, but really pleased with the attitude and the application of the group, because we can't qualify out the group. We're playing a team that won at Villa Park last week, that have performed really well so far in the WSL. So, yeah, not an easy game for us to finish off before the international break. But I thought, that we made a lot of changes, but the group, super disciplined, great attitude, and thought was unlucky not to cause a bit of carnage at the end. Actually, I think scoring a goal late on would have created an interesting ending, which was the plan, but wasn't quite able to get that in the end.
There we go. We'll draw a line then on the cup games. We're not really going to discuss it too much, Tom, because it's a competition that we were never going to win. No offense, but it was, as you said, it was always a tough group. But it's all about the league. But we want to sort of reflect on the season so far. It's now going into this latest international break for the Tractor Girls. They've still got 2 more league games this calendar year. They've got the FA Cup to look forward to as well. The draw is on Monday. Tomorrow or whenever you listen to this. Hopefully it's a home tie, because there's another game for us to watch, because if not, there's no games left for us to go and watch in a home capacity. So hopefully we get a nice FA Cup home draw, and we shall see who we get. But reflections for you so far, Tom. We've played 9 games in the league, 1 win, 7 defeats, 1 draw. Some big defeats, unfortunately. Going to quickly rattle them out because we haven't recorded a podcast since these defeats. Of course, that 7-0 defeat at Bristol City, which was not good at all. 4-1 home defeat to Newcastle. 4-1 home defeat, to Newcastle. 4-1. Yeah, I'm getting this. 4-0 home defeat to Birmingham. 4-1 home defeat to Newcastle. 3-2 at Sheffield United, which was a disappointing result because of the sort of comeback and stuff in that game. A 2-1 home defeat to Palace as well. So, it's been some frustrating results, some hammerings, unfortunately. But, we're now 5 points adrift. We are going to have a little discussion on relegation later on in the podcast, because you asked Joe about that. And it's still, too soon to talk about that. But you got to sort of discuss that a little bit. But how do you reflect on the season so far, my friend? Because is it harder than you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, a lot harder. I sort of had an inkling after Southampton that this was going to be a really tough test, and it has proved exactly that. There was getting a point away at Charlton was brilliant. They're still top of the league and doing really well up there. And then to beat Portsmouth the game after, there was that upward trajectory. And then you go to Sheffield United, a team that finished bottom last season, would have got relegated if it weren't for Blackburn's, off the pitch circumstances. You lose and that momentum sort of goes. And then they're just into a really tough run of games, playing against some of the, best teams in the division, teams that will be going for WSL football, throughout the season and hoping to get promoted. So it has been really, really difficult. Every game it looks like they have good spells in games, but it's just the silly errors, mistakes that they're conceding an awful lot from. I've watched and crosses of, as I mentioned earlier, it's too many goals are getting conceded from crosses or corners. They're not defending them very well. I know that the team and Joe is aware of that, but they're still doing it. Did it today. I know London City Lionesses are of higher quality opposition than what would normally be faced in the WSL2, but they are conceding an awful lot from crosses and corners. Silly mistakes. I was watching, the Bristol City highlights, and it's 3 of their goals came from just poor defending, silly mistakes. The first London City goal today came from an unfortunate, how they got the ball. It was really fortunate for them, but you can't allow a Finnish international to take it and then just run without any sort of challenge into the box and then just pretty much pass it into the far corner. It's poor defending and silly mistakes that's costing them. It isn't, them getting outplayed a lot of the time and, getting cut through. It's poor back passes. It's not defending very well. It's, a shot that goes in and is fumbled back into the path of an attacker. It's just not working very well. And I know that they'll all be disappointed in that and we'll be working to turn it around. But obviously we're 9 games in, got 2 games, Sunderland and Durham up next. And they'll have played every single team that they need to play, and it'll be back round to playing each other again. So it's been really difficult, and that's shown in their league position. I know it's still a long way to go, and things can change, but 5 points adrift is definitely not where anyone wanted the team to be come a month until Christmas.
Yeah, because big thing is just conceding poor goals, and obviously the goal difference is not looking good at all. Minus 20, 27 goals conceded. Portsmouth have conceded 24 as well, so they're not doing too good in terms of conceding. Of course, they're a team we've won against, but they've won 3 games, which has been the frustrating part of it because you don't have much room for a mistake in this division because you're going to get punished. But yeah, it's a disappointing thing because this team is sort of had form of clean sheets, and that was in the 3rd tier. But Joe's teams have always been really solid. But there is a lot of players, and I hate to keep saying this, but there is a lot of players making the step up to this division for the first time. They're learning game by game, and we're going to discuss sort of standout players later on in the podcast. But we're going to hear from Joe on his thoughts on the season so far. Once again, he's also experiencing this division for the first time as a manager as well. So I'm sure he's learning every game, even on the training grounds. The thing as well is there's so many different clubs in this division have got a massive budgets. Even Nottingham Forest, who went up just with us as well from the northern section, I think they've got a bigger budget than us. So sometimes, how do you compete against those sort of teams? That's not an excuse. It's just they can sort of recruit a bit more than us because they've got that money. But it's always going to be a hard task. I think maybe on our preview podcast, Tom, we were a bit maybe ambitious. We were like going 6th finish, going to score in every game, and all that sort of stuff. But, you just get excited. You're going into the league for the first time. It's a new territory for the club. But let's hear what Joe's got to say on the season so far, and we'll discuss players who may need to improve and other bits and bobs we want to talk about on the season so far. But here's Joe.
How has it been for you this first half of the season? Obviously, it's tougher than you might have imagined. Probably not the position you wanted to be in. How has it been? How have you found it?
Yeah, good challenge. It's something we worked so hard for so long to be in this position. We're not quite where we want to be. We'd like to have more points on the board, but we also appreciate where we've come from. The experience that a lot of the group does have is not at this level. Despite adding some players, we've still got players that are learning on the job and growing with each game. And yeah, I guess unfortunate I wasn't able to build on the point at Charlton and the win against Portsmouth. We didn't play great at Sheffield United, but we thought we were well in the game towards the end before we had a player sent off. And then I think since followed that, we've probably played the best 3 teams in the division from Birmingham, Newcastle, Bristol City. I think having them in a row it's been a bit unlucky. And obviously Palace came down last year and have got on paper a really, really good side. So to have those 4 games in a row, I think it puts things into perspective a little bit. But yeah, we've obviously have to play those games. We can have to play the hand that we're dealt. But yeah, 4 difficult games. So disappointing it wasn't able to build on the good start. It'd have been good to pick something up at Bramall Lane. But again, the games that followed that, just playing 4 really good teams. Again, Crystal Palace have had a difficult start, but yeah, if you look at the amount of players they've got that were playing in the Super League last year in comparison to some of ours that were playing against MK Dons and Cheltenham, for example. So yeah, it's important that we really do recognise the journey we've had, and what we do know is still a strong will and appetite and optimism from all of us to keep pushing forwards, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, Tom. They won't, give up. Although we are going to talk about relegation later on in the podcast. But let's talk about the players, because there is a lot of these players playing in this division for the very first time, who sort of, standed out so far. Leah Mitchell comes to mind straight away. It's good to see Sophie Pescott score a first goal at this level the other week. Natasha Thomas, once again, been through this journey from the 4th tier to the 2nd tier. And funny enough, it's her 10th anniversary at the football club this month. I think it's potentially her 250th game in the London City Lionesses, which is a mouthful, isn't it? London City Lionesses, bit of a mouthful. Yeah, for you, who's the players you want to sort of give praise to from the opening 9 league games?
Leah Mitchell, as already mentioned, I think has been probably the best player, I'd say, for Ipswich so far this season. She's, I think, started every league game and often had to start in midfield because of all the injury problems that they've had there, and did really well there. Has played at centre-back as well and has done well there. So I'd say definitely her. First time at this level, but I don't think you'd think it watching her. And at such a young age as well, I'm sure she'll go on to great things. Pescott, as you mentioned as well, great for her to get off the mark. I know that she's been wanting to get that goal for a long time, and I think until the last few games, I think she's been a little bit isolated. She hasn't got on the ball as much, and that's sort of expected when you're coming up against teams that are going to be attacking and you're purely going to be defending. There's not been a lot of chance for her to sort of get on the ball and run at her left back and things like that. Obviously, she won the ball high up against Palace to score her first one, and that's sort of what they haven't been getting this season. So great for her to get off the mark. I think Natasha Thomas, every time she's played, she's often had to play out on the wing rather than up top, which is what we've all come to expect. But she's quick, done well on that left wing, and did well today as well. I thought she's really quick in chasing down defenders. Obviously, again, she was marked by a World Cup winner, so tough task. World Cup and Women's Champions League winner with Barcelona. So didn't have an easy job today. But I think she's been really good. I think Summer Hughes deserves a little bit of a shout out as well. I think she's been solid at left back since she's come in, and I think she missed the start of the season, couple of games. But obviously the central midfield issues meant that Bethan Rowe had to go into midfield, and Summer Hughes got that chance at left back, and I think she's been good. She often gets forward and tries to make things happen when she can. Obviously she's been more defensive this season than she has been previously. I mean, it's Bethan Rowe, I think, has been the best signing, in my opinion. I think she's she understands what obviously the league is about. Had to play in different positions since coming in, left back, centre back, centre mid. So, and she's done well wherever she's had to play. So I'd say those 4 or 5 players have probably been the ones that I've looked at and gone, okay, they're doing all right at this level.
Yeah, and of course, Bethan Rowe's also had the captain's armband a few times when Boz has not been in the squad or not starting. I'll give her a shout out as well, Bethan Rowe, because she's done okay. She also got suspended, didn't she? So she missed a few games because of that suspension. Was it the Sheffield United game where she got sent off? Yeah. Injuries has been another big thing. I know it shouldn't be an excuse, but there has been injuries. There's been illnesses as well in the squad. So Jota had to sort of play players out of position, as you said. But yeah, Nat Negri potentially gets another shout as well. Like, she's made some really good saves this season, but there has been a few moments where I'm like, oh, you've got to do better there. Some of her kicking as well, Nat, if you're watching or listening, improve on your kicking, because the last game against Crystal Palace was not good. But let's talk about players who maybe need to improve a little bit, because maybe some of the new signings who've got experience at this level maybe haven't done as well as we're hoping they're going to. Jenna Deere is probably one of them. If she is listening to this podcast, I have to say she's been frustrating me the last few games with some of her passing and stuff like that. But she's obviously experienced this level. But anybody else that's sort of like Rihanna Dean, maybe she scored a few goals, but sometimes she can be a bit of an isolated figure up top. Sometimes you can't help that when your team are sort of, not really creating anything. But yeah, there's some players who still need to improve this. Players who are playing at this level for the first time who are struggling. Who should we talk about?
Obviously, you mentioned Deere and Dean. I feel a little bit bad for Rihanna Dean, just because, as you said, it's tough when your back's against the walls, and the only thing that you're sort of doing for 70, 80 minutes of a game is defending and booting the ball up pitch, which inevitably never goes anywhere except to the defenders. So she's sort of had to chase tails for a lot of the season. I think, and it's not nice to say, because she was so good the first time she was here and got a deserved move up the pyramid, but I think Paige Peake is one of those players that I was expecting a lot more from. She has been at fault for a few of the mistakes and poor passes, and putting Negri in a bit of trouble with some of her passes back. And I think I was expecting a little bit more from her, especially as she's played at this level before and knows what sort of attackers are like. And it's been, she's one of those players that I think would have done or should be doing better than she is. I think it's hard to say that Grace Neville hasn't, because she's sort of tried to do what she can, but obviously with a lot of the goals coming from crosses, some of those she should really be cutting out and stopping, especially for someone that has played, with a team that got promoted out of this league. And, as a New Zealand international, I think there's one or two times that I think I've been wanting a little bit more from her. I think the central midfield signings Ruby Doe's been pretty much injured since joining us as Sophie Bajent, so can't judge them. But I think what I'd like to see is just because it's clearly something's not working with the team, or if Joe can, after the international break, just try and play as many of the players that were at the club last season as possible. Negri in goal, and then Mitchell right back, Waring and Boz in centre back, Hughes left back, Kyra and maybe Fleming or Doe if she's back in midfield. Lucy O'Brien obviously had been one that's been injured for a couple of months. But if she's back and is ready to start a game, her and Tash up top with Ruby Seaby and Sophie Peskett or something like that on the wings, just because it'd be good just to try that out. They've obviously played with each other before and have had more time together. And then obviously if that isn't working still, then you've got these experienced players to bring on and hopefully do something with. But it's been not. I was just expecting a lot more from players that would have experience in this league, that have come in to be that experience and help the team out, and it's not working really at all. So,
well said, Tom. Yeah, I have to admit I've been a bit disappointed with some players, but yeah, like Paige Peake, I know she's got high standards, from when she's coming through the academy, and she has got high standards. I'm sure she's disappointed, in her performances, especially because she scored that goal, that winning goal against Portsmouth, stepping up for that penalty, because that was a pressure penalty, and her to score that, and that was the first win, and that's an opportunity to kick on. But since then, unfortunately, there's been some poor goals conceded, and it's just her fault. There's been other players who's been at fault for lapse of concentration and defensive lapses. Like set pieces have been a bit disappointing as well. A bit frustrating. Some free kicks and some drills. I don't know. I think we need to be maybe a bit smart with certain things. I don't know if Joe will change his system. I don't know if he'll change that. I think that's what maybe some frustrations with the fans. Would Joe change his formation? Will he, play different players in different positions? But yeah, obviously at the end of the day, that's Joe's decision. But this club has been on one hell of a journey, and they're still sort of learning on the job, really. But it will be interesting to see how we get on in the next two games, because they're two long away trips, Tom, Durham and Sunderland, which is just that's so far, bloody so far. But yeah, we're going to now hear from Joe on sort of the bigger picture, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, when you get to this division, when there's only one team that can go down, sort of relegation do get talked about a little bit, because we're 5 points adrift at the moment, goal difference in play. We're not giving up just yet, but you asked Joe on that. Let's hear what he had to say.
This league can change so quickly. Only one team gets relegated, and 5 points from safety, 2 wins in December, and you're out of it potentially. That must it must be encouraging that just a couple of wins and you could be clear of relegation.
Yeah, absolutely, that's it. And we have a lot more data that we're exposed to this year, and there's lots of things, like I said, that we have to improve on, but there's examples where our XG4 is almost the same as Charlton's, and they're top of the division. So I don't think we've had probably I know you make it yourself, but I think you can definitely benefit from good fortune in this division. I've looked at some data and some games back of teams in and around us, and Portsmouth to score 2 late on with 10 players in the manner that they did. Portsmouth beating Palace. There's some bits of real good fortune there. Charlton winning against Southampton 2-1 with an XG of 0.08.
Yeah.
And 58% success with the ball. Some of our numbers have been a little bit better than that on some occasions, yet we're falling short with getting beaten. So, hopefully, we'll keep working hard, we'll keep progressing, and we can get a little bit of good fortune go our way as well. I think it will certainly help.
Yeah, because I don't think we've had that much luck, have we? But don't get me started on XG, though. Bloody hell. But, Joe, at the end of the day, he's a modern football manager. He's going to have to say that, and they have to look into that because it is a modern thing. But I do not get involved in that. But yeah, how you feeling, mate? 9 games in. We're not going to go and put out there right now, our decision on what's going to happen. But, your gut feeling at the moment, I think maybe this next 2 games in the league is crucial to see because they're down and below there. And we've got to beat these sort of teams or get a good result anyway against Durham and Sunderland, who are, they're in the bottom half of the table. So, sort of big games coming up after this international break.
Yeah, very big. I think I don't want to say they can't afford to because there is still a long way to go of the season. But I think if they get 0 points and go into the Charlton game, who could well be top when they come to the JobServe Community Stadium in January. If they, if Ipswich don't get any more points before then, it could. I don't know how many points they could be behind, but it can change really quickly, this league, and a few wins and they're up there, but they're in a position now where Portsmouth have to lose games, and other teams have to help them out, and Durham need to lose games, Crystal Palace need to lose games, and the teams around them, they're not they're not playing really until mid-February, so they really need to get points on the board before January starts. Otherwise they're into Charlton, then Bristol City, and then Newcastle, and all 3 teams will be up there at the end of the season. I know that Bristol City and Charlton will be at home, which could help, but then playing Portsmouth in mid-February, that's the next game that sort of are playing a team around them after Sunderland and Durham, and I could get wins, could get points against those 3 teams, but if they don't get points against Sunderland and Durham, then all of a sudden there's a further 5 losses in the league going into Portsmouth, who may well have won 2 out of those 5 games that they have, and you're further behind than just 5 points. So they really do need to get something out of the next month. Otherwise, it could be an impossible task to try and get themselves out of it, especially with the goal difference, as you mentioned, because they are scoring. Ipswich, they're not, unfortunately, it's often consolation goals, but they are scoring. But I think I haven't seen anything to suggest that they will put away a team 2-3-0. If they're going to win, it will be 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, as they did with Portsmouth. So the goal difference will have a big thing to say, big part to play in the season. So they really do need to start picking up some points soon, because we're almost halfway through and they've won 1 game and drawn 1, and are 5 points adrift.
Yeah, this league, there's not many games. There's only, it's only 22 games in total. So yeah, they do come thick and fast. And the thing about this team as well, they're not used to losing, especially the crop you mentioned. they've lost games in the past, but that's just one every 5 months or something. They've unfortunately lost 7 in a row in all competitions, which must fit a weird feeling. I think even for us as reporters and fans are listening as well, like they've not been used to this team losing week in, week out. And it does hurt. I'm sure it does. They're going into the training ground working hard all week, preparing for the game, and then they lose, and it's like, all that hard work, wasn't for nothing because they tried their best, but they lose, and then it happens again, and it's happened again, and it's just, I'm sure it is, it is hard to take. I'm sure Joe takes a lot home with him, thinking, what else can I do to get the win over the line? I'm quickly looking at Portsmouth's next 2 fixtures, and they actually have some tough ones. They have Charlton next up, who are of course top, as you mentioned. Then Newcastle. So they've got some, Newcastle are in the top half of the table. So yeah, Portsmouth. Annoyingly, Portsmouth, both of their games are at home. So we've got 2 away trips, but Portsmouth at home, and that's, for me, that is a crucial thing at this level. I'm sure. I think that's where we're potentially going to get our results this season, potentially at home, because we've got that good point away at Charlton, which is very good indeed. We've got the win against Portsmouth. But yeah, I think, we're going to have to make Colchester our fortress. And that's another little mention I want to say to the fans who have been going to the games, because it's been a really good crowd. I've got the Summer Hughes song in my head. Thank you very much, Megan Waring's dad. Summer Hughes. He was chanting that today at the game. And it's in my head right now. When you mentioned Summer Hughes in the podcast, I literally came in and I started that chant. But yeah, the fans, I think, that you can see they're still there trying to support the girls as much as possible. It's actually been really good, actually, to see Palace and London City Lionesses. They've had drummers as well. So we've had 2 drummers at the game for back-to-back home games, which has been really good. But yeah, it's going to be a big challenge. I'm sure Joe Sheehan and the staff know this, and the players. But we just got to back them as much as possible. And, the players, just don't give up. I'm sure there's, some players out there, they're disappointed on their own performances. But these next 2 games are crucial, Tom, my friend. And also the FA Cup draw. As we record this, we don't know who we've got yet, so we'll find out. That could be a nice, somewhat distraction. We've always enjoyed the FA Cup. So hopefully that's a good opportunity to get a win, because just winning in any competition will bring loads of confidence to this group. But yeah, anything else you want to mention, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, just momentum is huge, especially at this level. And when you've lost 7 in a row, it does feel like, when is the next win going to come from? Durham obviously up next. If they don't win there, then, as you said, FA Cup, there could well be, because WSL teams don't come into it. Obviously, would hate to get a WSL 2 team. That would be I think the world would probably be against.
It'll be Crystal Palace again.
Yeah. The world would be against the Ipswich Town Women if Crystal Palace gets drawn to be played away at Sutton United for would be the 3rd time in a season. So hopefully a nice little 3rd tier, 4th tier team that would they could put a few goals past and get a win. And even if they do get a couple of wins over the next few games, that could then go, okay, we know we can win, and just get that momentum going with those wins. The longer obviously it goes without a win, tougher it will be. So I think a really good tie in the FA Cup would be fantastic. But as you say, I don't think none of the players are going home thinking, done my job, didn't do very well, but who cares? They're I know that they're all giving their best out there, and will be really disappointed in the position that the club is in, and will want to change it soon. So there will be wins, I'm sure of it. It won't be one and done for Ipswich in the league. They will win again, I'm pretty sure. Just hope that that's sooner rather than later.
Yes, indeed. Because we don't want to be doing a podcast and going, oh, they lost again. But yeah, it's a big step up. But I'm sure they're gonna take this challenge on, and we'll be interested to see if there's any new signings, because we've got a January transfer window. If there's players available, they could go for. I'm sure there'll be players back from injury as well. And you just never know behind the scenes with certain players, illnesses and just just general stuff. So we'll find out. But hope you've enjoyed the return of the Track the Girls Talk podcast. It's been a while, but we'll try our best to record one more before the end of the year, because we want to do our nice, as we normally try to do, a season review, or not season review, a year of review, 2025, because unfortunately it's been a year or two halves. Of course, the start of the year and the promotion celebrations are unbelievable, and then of course we've had the challenge in the second tier. But it's still incredible, though, isn't it, Tom, to see this team in the second tier of women's football playing against these sort of players, seeing internationals pop up at Colchester. Who have we seen so far? I've seen Nikita Paris in this game. I'm trying to think who else. There's been a couple more, but my mind's going blank. Anybody else that comes to mind?
There was another Brit playing today, Zelma, I think.
Katie Zelem, or
English. Yes,
yeah.
Yes, that's it. She's made appearances for England. Jordan Nobbs was playing for
Demi Stokes for Newcastle,
household name, playing for Newcastle a few games back. I think Birmingham had a South Korean in their team who had played some 150 games for South Korea. I think Birmingham also had an American international goalkeeper starting for them. So it's just the caliber of player that they're coming up against, that they won't have done that unless it was in the FA Cup, like last season against Manchester City, playing Chloe Kelly and things like that. But they won't have played internationals in the league or in the League Cup. So all of a sudden you've got these big names that have got to the finals of European Championships and World Cup winners as today, and players that have played for Arsenal, Manchester United, Barcelona, playing at Colchester United against a lot of players who have not played for any other team but Ipswich, and have played, have had to work hard to get from where they were to this point now. So it's been great to see those players come down, and you can really see the difference. I think today showed that, and you can really see some of the quality that those international players had. Ipswich have got full internationals, in Natasha Thomas in Jamaica, who obviously since the last pod scored her first goal for them. So congratulations to her. I'm sure she's absolutely buzzing with that. And Grace Neville playing for New Zealand, and
won't talk about results.
No. Natalia Negri now playing for England under 23s or under 21s, one of the two. Megan Waring, on the verge of under 23s for Scotland, or may have already played for them.
Sure.
So they'll have internationals that maybe not England internationals as it currently stands, but in the future, who knows? It's all a good learning experience and great experience for those players as well, to play against these players and play with internationals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think there's two players so far as we record this have been called up. Nat Negri for England under 23s, and Meg for Scotland under 23. So they'll be off on international duty, but I'm sure there'll be maybe a few more potentially. But this is an opportunity now for Joe and the rest of the team to, I think he mentioned they could maybe do an in-house sort of friendly if they can. But they've got time on the training ground to learn and sort of watch what Durham and Sunderland have done so far, and get ready for the winter period, because this is sort of crucial time for the team. But I hope you've enjoyed this latest Track the Girls Talk podcast. We'll try our best not to leave it as late as we have done for this one. But Tom, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back hopefully very soon to bring you another episode. So thanks again. Bye-bye for now.